Hi, I'm Reilly. I am a physician assistant. I live in New York City and work in the emergency room. But I'm from a small town in Connecticut, was spending a lot of time in the Carolinas before coming up here. And yeah,
So did you always know you wanted to be a physician assistant?
I had no idea. I changed my major in college, I think 4 different times. I didn't really know what a PA was when I was younger, but I kind of found an interest in medicine. My dad, when he was younger, in his 40s, had a cardiac arrest. And we were living in a super small town in Connecticut. We brought him to our local emergency room, and it was like a small town, resource limited hospital. We had no idea. And I think it was a PA, my mom later told me, that was the first one to come out and assess my dad and like start getting him the help that he needed, because the only other doctor in the hospital was busy with someone else who was critical. So that's where I kind of like had the seed implanted in my brain. But yeah, it was super cool. I mean, they gave so much to me in that moment. Like my dad recently passed away 4-ish years ago. And they gave me an extra 15 years with him that, I could never repay that gift. But I think once I moved through some different career paths, I thought I wanted to do business like my dad all throughout high school. And then I was like, it didn't call to me really, the business like mindset. But I was like, maybe I can use my passion to help people in another way. And then I became an EMT when I lived in Charleston, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. This makes sense. I loved seeing people like in those vulnerable moments, and kind of understanding now, being on the bedside for 2 different huge moments in my dad's life, and 2 different moments in my life. I felt like that made the most sense for me to want to give back to the community in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned losing your dad. How has that changed who you are as a person?
Oh my gosh. That, like, it changed everything about my life. It changed my whole world, how I see relationships, how I see myself. Moving through grief, and I think I don't even know if I would call it moving through it. I think it's something you live with forever. But when I lost my dad, I was 22. I like newly could drink alcohol for the first time. And I was really the only person in my family with much of a medical background, and an only child. So I kind of went out to Washington. I had a boyfriend at the time who helped me go out there and, deal with all of the end of life stuff. But it was all very sudden. And it just kind of reminded me that, actually it didn't even remind me, because I don't think I had known it until then, like that in a drop of a hat everything can change. Like, I remember the day that it happened, I had the most incredible day. I had just started a new job at Ocean Rescue, and I was out at the beach, and I didn't have my phone on me all day, and I was like, oh, this felt so nice to like unplug and be disconnected. And I went back to my phone, and I like had a missed call from my grandma, and I'm like not super close with my family to where she calls me that much. So I was like, that's weird. And I kind of had a weird feeling, and then my heart just sank, because I was like, your dad is not doing well. He got in an accident, sort of deal. And I think I like had some sort of thing in my mind that I was like, miracles don't happen twice. Like, this might be it. Like, I kind of was accepting it. But in the same aspect, I think losing him made me realize, like, I had gone through life thinking, like, we're waiting on these miracles to happen. And life, it is the miracle. Like, felt like I lost everything. I felt like I hit rock bottom. I felt like I was disconnected from my family. Like, my mom didn't really come out with me, so I like had a weird spot with my relationship with her, and because they were divorced, so we were trying to move through that. But it made me realize, like, you when I felt like I had nothing, it's just a mindset shift, and then you're just kind of like, you wake up the next day and you see the sun and you're like, wait, no, I have everything. Like, everything's a miracle. And I think it took me a long time to like see that part of grief. Some days I still don't see it, and it's like, you just want to scream at the world and be mad. And they say there's 5 stages that you move through to get to this like good part at the end, and I think it's just like, for me, it's always been the messy middle. But I think I realize I just have to hang on to the good moments of every day. So at the end of the day, I'm like, maybe that was the miracle. I got him back once and I lost him, and now I see all of the miracles that are every single day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special. And it allows me to connect with others. Yeah.
I'm sure that helps you a lot, being a PA.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So when you lost everything, did you feel like it made you face yourself in a new way and really question your identity?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think all my closest friends know how much I really questioned everything. I honestly don't know if it was even like a question of who I was. I don't think I even was at a place where I could ask the question. Like I felt so low that I just felt like I wasn't anything or anyone. I felt like I was just kind of like moving through life and letting different things like speak to me in different ways that I had never felt before. And yeah, it was kind of the first time that I was like, realized I lived this life for me. Like I went out there and was like, okay, this is something I'm gonna have to buck up and deal with on my own. I spent a lot of my life before that, like, trying to look up to my parents and figure out how I can make them proud, like, going to college, going to grad school, and that was the goal at that time, was to go to PA school. My dad like passed as I was, I think, applying for PA schools, but it really made me question, like, is this my calling? Who am I outside of like trying to impress other people and my parents? And I kind of like let all of that fall behind, and I was like, what, I think this path still feels right for me, but I changed in so many different ways in my relationships with people. I think I really started to value like people's imperfections and what makes them them, and like being from a small town, you kind of know everything about everyone, and I always thought I had to like be perfect. I'm a Virgo, perfectionist at heart, and then I finally started to love the things that make me so different from everyone else. That always made me feel like I don't fit in, and I just out of the blue fell in love and was in this extremely unconventional relationship that my mom didn't accept and my family like didn't know about, and I hid from a lot of people, and it was until I didn't anymore. And then I was just like, this is me, this is who I am, and I love people for who they are and not any sort of anything else, like just who they are in the depths of their heart. And I found that really nice, even though it was so scary. But yeah.
What do you mean it was so scary?
Gosh, it was like, I think that was the first time I like let myself feel in that sort of way, like not thinking about what anyone else would think and just feeling what I felt. And it just kind of hit me so strongly out of nowhere that I was like, what is this sort of feeling? Is this like, this is what people feel like in movies? Like, this is what it's all about, I guess. And maybe it felt a little bit that way because it was like, so not what people usually like think of. Maybe because it caught me so off guard. I think it's because also like I grew up in a small town and all I usually saw was like, just like the perfect little families, perfect little marriage in a coastal Connecticut town. People like dressing in their Lily Pulitzer and going on their boats and like having these adorable little blonde babies. And I was like, wow, yeah, that seems pretty good to me. Like it seems like a lovely life, but then I was just like, maybe there's more. Like it doesn't just have to be that. And I never think I like knew people who thought that way. So it never like opened my eyes to it until it just smacked me in the face. And I was like, it's just people are people. And yeah.
It seems like you have a real love for authenticity in everyone.
Yeah.
So how has it been living in New York?
Oh my God. I always describe it as like the most brutal, beautiful thing to ever happen to me. It's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and that's what's beautiful about New York is you really feel it all. I think that's something I always wanted to kind of understand after my dad passed away, or like reach for, is like we're just here to feel it all. We're just here to move through everything life has to offer. And New York lets you do that for sure, or it just forces you to do that, one or the other, however you want to look at it. But yeah, it's been honestly, like I've thought this many times, but it's like the second hardest year of my life since my dad passed away. That year was really, really tough on me. Because I just felt like I lost it all. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I was at that point of transition in my life. Like, am I gonna stay in Charleston? And I was planning to move out and do PA school where my dad lived on the West Coast. Yeah, he was like looking at property. Oh, it's gonna make me cry.
It's okay.
He was like looking at property on the ocean so I could like go out and live with him and do school out there. And then in a blink of an eye, all that changed. So I think moving to New York was like interesting to me because it was never in the plan. I never even planned to apply to Duke, which is where I ended up going for PA school, because I was like, well, I'm not gonna get in there. I'm like, there's no way. My advisor in school was literally like, don't bother applying there. And then I kind of was like at this point in my life where I was so low that I was like, I got nothing to lose at this point. If they want to reject me, then that's fine. But I kind of always felt drawn to there because of like their mission statement, and then it led me here. I never thought I was gonna come to New York. Never in a million years did I want to live in New York. I was actually like, I hated New York City growing up. I really did. I came here for field trips and was like, no, girl, I am a small town girl at heart. So, but I met some people, and I really was like, I think I want to have that experience when I'm young, and the opportunity presented itself, and I think I was like, how could I say no to that? I'd always be wondering what if I went. But in that same aspect, it's been like a huge adjustment because I've never lived in a big city, and I wouldn't consider myself a city girl, but I'm like learning. I'm learning to appreciate all the small, quiet moments in the city. But I really value connection with people and community. And since losing my dad, like I think loneliness was a huge thing I dealt with. But this is my first time actually living alone and being like not with a partner. So that has been a lot to move through. I've felt like I've moved through my grief like a million times over again. And I bring home a lot and just like know that I have to sit with it myself, like just myself and God, and that's that's how New York is sometimes. You feel it all, and you feel it all in front of everyone. And you can find connections. I think they're like, it's hard when you first move here to connect with people, because I think a lot of people are going about their own business, want to give people privacy, you know, when you are like crying on the subway. But the beautiful moments here are just so beautiful.
And so I want to go back to being a PA. How has losing your dad impacted your work life?
I think it makes it both so much harder and so much easier in the way that when I see my patients, like, I feel so deeply for them. I know how vulnerable it is to like be in their shoes and be in their family's shoes on the other side of the bed. And I know that they're coming to us like with this vulnerability, which I so much appreciate about working in emergency medicine. Like, you are seeing people on their worst day ever, and you know, you have to meet them where they are and hold space for that, which is really hard, but something that speaks to me because I've wanted someone to be there to hold space for me. And like, when my dad was in the hospital, I know there were like specific nurses who I can completely remember who I was like, they changed my life, and they were so sweet. So I think that makes it easier. It's like an unspoken language almost, when I like go up to someone and just can look them in the eye, and like they can feel some sort of seen by that. Or being able to like not say that I understand where they're coming from, but understand like how much life can hurt and be really hard, especially when you're like breaking really hard news to people. Like, there are many days where I have to tell people they have cancer, and tell someone that their loved one isn't doing well and might not pull through the night, or, you know, break it to them that we have done everything that we can. And like, I've been on the other side of those words, so I think it makes it easier to like hold space for them. But it makes it harder to put on a strong face and get through the rest of the day, because, you know, like, I'll break really hard news to someone, and then I still have 10 more patients who need help, and you still have to go help them, and you got to put on your brave face, even if you're having a terrible day. Yeah, so I love the way that it's allowed me to connect with others and understand hardship, and understand with like one thing that could change different in my life. One day, one thing happens differently, and I could be 100% in their shoes. And I think that's a really good perspective to have, but it also allows me to see how little my problems are every single day. I'm like, I can have a terrible day at work, and at the end of the day, I get to go home, and I don't have to stay in the hospital. But yeah, it makes me uber thankful for all the things I do have, even though at one point I felt like I had nothing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that you're such a light, and those nurses that you remember, I'm sure there are people that remember you in that same light. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
How do you feel about me asking the final two questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you title this chapter of your life?
I have to think about it. I feel like I'm in a season of rebuilding, like coming back to me sort of deal. Rebuilding who I think I am. I'm like trying to find the words for that, but I think it would just be rebuilding. Because I think when I first moved to New York, I felt broken, completely broken. I mean, I just was heartbroken, and for the first time, like, since my dad passed, I understood what it actually meant. Like when they sing in songs and they're like, I like feel a hole in my chest, like, or in my stomach, like I would think about it and get nauseous. And sometimes I would like get nervous to go to work and I'm like, oh my God, I like physically feel like empty inside. And I didn't think that that was a real feeling till you like actually feel like so stripped of everything. Makes you question a lot, it breaks you down, and I think I got broken down a lot when I first moved here, and now I'm finally kind of getting my footing, and I've realized like there is a part of being stripped down to nothing that makes you feel clean, and you can be in this season of rebuilding however you want. So, and just like, and also like being stripped down, it makes me come back to like who I was as a kid and like what I always dreamed of. And I was like, you know, I got the dream here. Like I have the dream job working at an amazing medical center in New York City and like in the coolest city ever. And I've been doing it for like 8 months now. And I was like, it is the dream, but it doesn't feel like my dream. And I think that's a hard thing to realize because you're like, oh, like how can it be both? Like it can be so beautiful, but not for me. And like a lot of people would kill for this, and I'm trying to decide if it's me. But I think I'm happier in a little small town with my little community. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
New York's blessing you with that realization, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what are you learning to love about yourself?
I think all the things that make me not perfect. All my imperfections, all of the silly little things that probably drove my mom crazy when I was younger and drove all my ex-partners crazy. That I'm so clumsy. And I don't know, like I like to be silly, but yeah, I feel like all the things that make me different because they allow me to connect with people in a very vulnerable way, and just like having come from a place of such like loneliness, I think I realized I had a lot of friends, but after I moved through like losing my dad and grief, I had a lot of friends who knew me for the person I was before that and like didn't see all the hurt, because I moved through so much of it on my own. And like I don't have siblings, so it wasn't like people I could talk to about that. So I think finding like the imperfections and loving that about myself and like actually showing that more, learning to love that so that I can feel like I find my family who gets it and just loves you regardless.
And then I want to leave space if you want to say anything directly to anyone watching this.
What do I want to say? I would say like thank you to everyone else who's shown me vulnerability and shown me their scars and allowed me to be me.
Thank you, Reilly.
Yeah, thank you.